I can't remember the title. I didn't look it up. Oh my gosh. Hi guys, I'm Amy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a tag for you all. I'm going to be doing the last 10 book tag, and this tag was originally created by Mark Nash, and I've seen it rolling around here on BookTube, and I really like the questions. I haven't been tagged per se, at least to my knowledge, but I'm doing it anyways because I like it that much. So if you're interested in my answers and such, then go ahead and keep on watching. Question number 1 is the first book that you didn't finish, and I have already chatted about this book several times on my channel, but that was Jane Feather's To Wed a Wicked Prince. It's a romance novel, and I was 300 pages deep and couldn't find it in myself to care about these characters, so I put it down. Question 2 is the last book that I reread, and I believe that was Wild Magic by Tamara Pierce. This is a favorite series slash author of mine. Tamara Pierce writes YA fantasy, and I've read all of her books so many times, and this is a series about a young girl named Dane who has a magical affinity for animals, and I love it so very much. So if you haven't read Tamara Pierce before, you absolutely should. There is so much amazingness there, and it will keep you occupied for a while. Question 3 is the last book that I bought, and I bought 2 at the same time, and the first of these is another romance novel. If you've seen my recent romance novel chat, then you'll know romance has been on my mind a lot lately, and this is Sabrina Jeffries' Never Seduce a Scandal, and this is the first book in the School for Heiresses series. I am really hopeful that this will get me out of my romance rut because Sabrina Jeffries is a favorite author of mine. And continuing on the romance chat with a contemporary, which I don't usually read, and a current very popular contemporary is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. This is about a biracial couple who just go on a wedding date. She decides to be his wedding date for his ex's wedding, and things ensue from there, and I've heard amazing things and I'm pretty stoked about it. Question 4 is the last book you said you read but didn't, and I'm gonna be honest, I can't think of one because I was that kid in high school and in college who, if there was assigned reading, I actually did it. I did have a teacher argue with me one time that she didn't believe I'd finished a book. It was The Grapes of Wrath. I really disliked that book so much that I read it really fast, and my teacher didn't believe me that I'd read it, but yeah, I don't have an answer for this one. Question 5 is the last book I wrote in the margins in, and some of you may know I am a big proponent for writing in your books. I really enjoy that. I know some people just cringe even thinking about it. The technical answer to this would be the book that I'm currently reading, although it's been very minimal writing, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I'm not going to go into the plot about this book because I think we all know what it is, but the jury's still out about it. We'll see how it goes. My husband requested that I read this book, so we're giving it a shot. But the last book that I finished and wrote in the margins in, and I wrote in the margins of this book a lot, was The Trouble with Goats and Sheep by Joanna Cannon. This is a wonderful book that is about 2 young girls in the 70s in the UK trying to figure out what happened to their missing neighbor. And it's a very interesting read. I recommend not knowing a lot about it going into it because it just adds to the wonderful deliciousness that this book is. But I wrote in the margins a lot in this book, as you can tell. Really enjoyed this one. Number 6 is the last book that I had signed, and I don't think as an adult that I've had a book signed, which is kind of sad, and I probably should do something about that. But as a kid, I had lots of children's books illustrated, or not illustrated, signed, because we had authors that would come to my elementary school and we would get to meet them. And one of my favorites from that time was Birdie's Lighthouse by Deborah Hopkinson and illustrated by Kimberly Bulkin-Root. Sorry, I needed to cheat and look at the names, but this is a really, really wonderful story about a girl who lives on an island that her dad is in charge of the lighthouse, and when he falls sick, it falls on her shoulders during a storm to keep the lighthouse glowing and lit. And I really, really recommend it, and its illustrations are gorgeous. Number 7 is the last book that I lost, and I usually don't lose books because, one, I just don't lose things very often. 2, the people that I do lend my books out to always bring them back. I completely trust them. So I have awesome friends that way. But I think somehow when my husband and I moved, like 3 years ago into the house we just sold, The Will of the Empress by Tamara Pierce was lost somewhere among that, which was really disappointing because this is, like I said, a favorite author of mine, but this is a standalone book that follows the Circle of Magic and the Circle Opens quartets. Again, it's really, really good. I highly recommend her, but definitely read the books that come before this one, otherwise I think you'll be a little bit lost, but somehow this book got lost, and if I got rid of it, it was completely unintentional because, like I said, Tamara Pierce was like my teenage years. I read her books so many times. I'm being redundant now, but I mean, you really should go read her. She's come up twice now. And number 8 is the last book you had to replace, and going back to number 7, the last book that I replaced was The Will of the Empress by Tamara Pierce, or Tamara Pierce, excuse me. I've always said Tamara Pierce, but her name is actually Tamara. Tamara Pierce, and I found this at my local library in the sales section for $1, so I cleaned it up and added it back to my collection, and my heart was happy once again. Number 9 is the last book that you had an argument over. Now, usually I don't argue about books. Like, I've gotten into discussions about books, but I really can't think of one except for the one that I'm currently reading, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which I'm reading because my husband really enjoyed this book. And as I mentioned, the jury's still out on it because I'm really not enjoying it. This is the mass market paperback, and I'm 160 pages in, and the first 120 pages was just info dump, and I have found this book to be very boring thus far. So we haven't argued about it, but we've discussed the different merits, or perceived merits, or merits that have not been perceived within this, but I wouldn't call it an argument. I don't have a good answer for this one, guys. Number 10 is the last book you couldn't get a hold of, and I'm gonna go with a book that I still haven't gotten a hold of, and it's not because I couldn't go to the internet and get it, because I absolutely could, but every time I go to my local used bookstore, I look for The Story of a New Name by Elena Ferrante. This is book 2 of the Neapolitan novels, the first of which being Brilliant Friend. I can't, for some reason, they never have this book. There have literally been times where the first book, and the third book, and the fourth book have all been there, but never the second one. I don't know why I can't find it. I'm probably gonna just have to break down and purchase it on Amazon, used, which I do frequently, but I would prefer to buy it from my local used bookstore, but they just haven't had it, and it's incredibly frustrating. It's very frustrating. Alrighty guys, that is the last 10 book tag. I really enjoy doing this tag. The tag game lately has been really strong, like on point. But I tag all of you. If you haven't done this tag and want to, you should totally do it. Let me know if you do though, because I want to watch. And for those of you who want to comment down below about any of the books I mentioned, or if you have any recommendations for me, based on some of the books I've chatted about. I always love getting recommendations from you guys. Or you want to answer one of these questions yourselves, you totally should, and say hi, and you know the drill. But if you guys like this video, please like it. If you loved it, subscribe, and we'll see you in my next video. Happy reading! Illustrated by not Curling, it's Kimberly. Curling and Kimberly, they're not even close. Hi, Deborah Hopkins, the Hoppa.